Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now it is happening. Bitcoin is starting to break below this very important line of support, potentially about to repeat history in for another major move. But in the immediate short term, we now have a new signal flashing that we need to pay attention to, while the price of Ethereum is getting extremely close to breaking below this important area of support, and the price of XRP is also now testing a crucial area of support in the short term. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, starting off on the weekly Bitcoin price chart, and technically the super trend indicator is still sitting in the green, indicating a larger bull market. But as I've already been saying for close to a week now, we now have a new bearish divergence reconfirmed, with the latest high confirmed in the price and a new lower high confirmed in the weekly Bitcoin RSI. So ultimately, this tells us that we're losing bullish momentum, most likely in for, at best, a larger sideways consolidation, possibly a larger correction within the next 1 to 2 months as a very likely scenario. So obviously we can see short-term bullish, short-term bearish price action, but looking at the bigger picture for the next 1 or 2 months, it's very likely we're going to see a larger slowdown, lacking bullish momentum for the price of Bitcoin. And if we're taking a look at the daily Bitcoin price chart, we're still seeing very similar price action right now to what we saw earlier this year. And so just keep this in mind. Of course, even though we just had a flash crash a few days ago, almost a week ago now, of course, it is possible we could see a little bit more bearish price action like what we saw late February this year. Obviously, early February this year, we saw basically a flash crash entering into February, and then a larger sideways consolidation, and then a continued drawdown in the price of Bitcoin. So of course, if we lose these lows right here as support, then we're most likely in for potentially that next pullback that could be coming soon. And so, like I said in my last video, we really need to pay attention to these lows and also this ascending line of support as really the final support for Bitcoin before potentially a larger pullback playing out over a period of weeks. And here on this daily Bitcoin price chart, this ascending line of support is currently sitting at approximately 109k to 110k. So obviously the price of Bitcoin, at least as of right now, has dipped below that line of support, but I want to make it clear we've not yet confirmed a candle close below the line of support. So it's possible we could actually just turn this into a candle wick towards the downside and confirm the candle close back above this support, which in that situation we have no confirmed break towards the downside, just simply a candle wick towards the downside, but no break. But obviously, despite the fact we've not yet confirmed a break below this line of support, we have technically just created a new lower low in the price of Bitcoin compared to this previous low that we saw near the end of September. And so either way, obviously the price structure is not currently looking too good. We're not looking extremely bullish right now in terms of this larger structure, and obviously that aligns with this bearish divergence on the weekly time frame, telling us we're most likely going to see at best a sideways consolidation, but ultimately a larger slowdown, lacking bullish momentum, quite possibly a bit more of a pullback within the next 1 or 2 months is a very likely scenario. So all of these charts are currently aligning very well, but obviously if we're looking at the daily chart, for example, that tells us what we might be looking at over the next couple of weeks. Looking at the weekly chart, telling us what we might be looking at for the next 1 or 2 months. But if we're talking about what we should be expecting just in the next day or so, in the immediate short term, we do have a new bullish divergence here on the 4-hour Bitcoin price chart that is worth paying attention to. And now, once again, I want to make it clear this is not yet confirmed, but it is currently forming because we do have lower lows in the price of Bitcoin in the candle closes here, because by default, the RSI is based off candle closes. So we look at the candle closes for the price action. Otherwise, if we're looking at the candle wicks, you would have to ultimately change the input data for the RSI. And so with that being said, once again, lower lows in the price of Bitcoin in the candle closes and higher lows currently forming in the 4-hour Bitcoin RSI. But technically this still needs to be confirmed, with the higher low confirmed in place in the RSI by seeing some sort of bounce like this, actually confirming with a couple of candle closes ideally. And usually the most common outcomes from a bullish divergence is either just a sideways consolidation like this, or potentially a bit of a bullish relief like this, as very common outcomes. Basically a bit of a break or a relief from all of the bearish price action, and usually a bullish divergence on the 4-hour time frame plays out over a few days or so before it starts to lose relevance. But once again, I want to make it clear this is not yet confirmed. So for all we know, we could just continue dumping here. And if we see a large enough dump right now, it is possible the RSI could create a lower low below the previous low. And in that situation, of course, there'll be no divergence at all. So we need to see some sort of little bounce, not even a massive bounce, but basically one or two green candles confirming to actually confirm the higher low in place in the RSI. And then we can expect a bit more of a relief over the next couple of days. But once again, understand the difference between the different time frames. If we're looking at this time frame, looking at this bullish divergence, it might play out over a period of days if it first confirms. But remember, looking at the larger time frames, especially that weekly time frame, still telling us we're likely going to be in for a larger slowdown over a period of, say, 1 or 2 months. And of course, on this daily Bitcoin price chart, if we fail to get back above this line of support, so even if we confirm the bullish divergence, play out a bit of a relief like this, if it only plays out like that over 1 or 2 days or so and then starts to lose relevance and we come back down, obviously it is still possible that in the next few weeks or so we could be in for a bit more of a larger pullback. So keep that in mind. That is a real risk that we need to be aware of. And in case you're wondering where I'll be targeting next for the price of Bitcoin, if we first confirm the break below this line of support, where could the price potentially drop to? And well, if we're taking a look at the Fibonacci retracement tool from swing low to swing high on this logarithmic chart, we have first of all the 38.2% Fibonacci level sitting at just above 106,000, around 106,500. So it's possible you could find a bit of support around there, but ultimately the next major target for the price of Bitcoin will be sitting at around $100,000 per Bitcoin based on the 50% retracement level, also based on these lows. And of course, 100K is a massive psychological level as well. And if the price of Bitcoin ultimately breaks below 100,000, in that situation, I would expect a lot of support in his golden pocket here in between around 92,000 to 94,000 as a major price target. So those are the levels that I'll be watching further towards the downside here. If once again, we first confirm the break with at least a daily candle close below around 109 to 108,000. And if we're taking a quick look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, we can see that the price of Bitcoin obviously just wiped out some liquidity towards the downside with this short-term pullback here. And that liquidity was sitting at roughly 109,000 to 109,500. And obviously I mentioned that in my last video. And it is worth pointing out that at least for now, we still have liquidity building above the price of Bitcoin at roughly 116,000. But obviously with all of these other factors in the price chart, like for example, if we actually confirm this break below this ascending line of support here, in that situation, it's unlikely it would go all the way back up towards 116,000 straight away, just for this reason alone, because obviously we have to consider all of this information, put it all together to figure out what is most likely going to happen for Bitcoin. But even if we confirm this break towards the downside, this potentially opens up a trading opportunity because, for example, if we confirm the break towards the downside, like what we saw last time back in basically late February, of course, if you took that opportunity to short Bitcoin, you could have made a lot of easy profits while the price was dumping. And so if you haven't done so already, this is definitely the time to get set up, ready to go on a crypto exchange to take advantage of the next trading opportunity as soon as it happens here. And personally, I take a lot of my crypto trades over on BTNX, so I'll make sure to leave a link to BTNX below the video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can claim massive trading and deposit bonuses. For example, you can claim up to 120,000 USDT out of a prize pool for trading bonuses here just by trading crypto using that link. And there's also deposit bonuses. If you deposit as little as $100, you get a $20 bonus, or if you deposit just 1,000 USDT, you get a $200 bonus into your BTNX account. Basically free money from the exchange just by depositing crypto using that link. But unfortunately, if you don't use that link, you can't claim any of these bonuses here. So if you're going to be getting set up ready to go to take the next trading opportunity, you might as well get set up ready to go using the link below the video to take advantage of these bonuses here. And in case you're wondering, BTNX is a no KYC exchange, which means you can access it from basically any country in the world without needing any KYC. But as always, check your local regulations when it comes to trading crypto. And for whatever reason, if you don't want BTNX as an exchange, there's also 2bit as another option out there, another exchange that I also trade on. So I'll also make sure to leave a link to 2bit below this video. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can also claim massive bonuses. For example, up to 10,000 USDT in trial fund bonuses and 8,000 USDT in actual withdrawable stablecoins. just by simply depositing and trading crypto using that link below the video to 2bit. And on top of that, without making any deposits or any trades, you can get a free $30 sign up bonus in trial funds and 1 month free VIP3 upgrade. So basically very cheap trading fees over on 2bit and essentially free money from the exchange just by simply making an account using the link below the video to 2bit. So once again, if you're going to be set up ready to go to take the next trading opportunity, you might as well get set up ready to go using the links to take advantage of these bonuses here. And in case you're wondering, yes, 2bit is also a no KYC exchange. But with that being said, taking a look at the Bitcoin dominance chart here on the daily time frame, and right now, technically speaking, the bullish divergence is still active for the Bitcoin dominance, which means overall expect maybe a bit more of a sideways consolidation, but most likely a bit more of a bullish relief as a very likely scenario for the Bitcoin dominance. And so obviously this means that if we continue to play out this bullish divergence as we have been doing over the last 1 month or so, it's quite likely that a lot of the major altcoins out there, not every altcoin, but a lot of the altcoins on average will likely be underperforming Bitcoin. So doing a bit worse than whatever Bitcoin is doing, which means if Bitcoin ultimately does confirm the break towards the downside, that will likely bring down a lot of the altcoin market with it. So keep that in mind. And if we're taking a look at Ethereum on the 3-day time frame, right now the price of ETH is getting very close to possibly confirming a break below this important area of support here. Obviously, we saw that massive candle wick towards the downside with that previous flash crash, but technically we've not yet actually confirmed a 3-day candle close below this area of support. So it's still possible we could hold this as support in between 3.9K to 4.1K. But once again, as of recording the video, the price is getting very close to 3.9K, and the next 3-day candle close is in about 2 days from now. So if, for example, especially if Bitcoin breaks below this level of support here and continues a further pullback, that will significantly increase the probability that we'll see a breakdown for Ethereum below 3.9K in the coming days. And so definitely pay attention to what Bitcoin is doing to figure out what is likely going to happen for Ethereum and a lot of altcoins. And if we're taking a look at the somewhat shorter term here on the daily time frame, technically speaking, we still have this bullish divergence on the daily Ethereum price chart, which overall is playing out in the form of mostly some choppy sideways price action. As we can see, we saw a bounce and then we're dipping back down, and it's possible we could see another little bounce here if, of course, we hold this level of support. We're running into this support as recording this video. And so once again, a bullish divergence by itself does not always result in a massive bullish trend reversal all the way back up towards the highs. Sometimes it can result in just a bit of a bounce, a short-term bullish relief, sometimes just some choppy sideways price action. But ultimately, what it tells us is that we're likely going to be lacking bearish momentum in terms of the larger structure, the larger momentum, at least over the next week to 2 weeks. And obviously, it's almost been 1 week for this playing out. And if we're zooming further into the short term, we can see that right now the price of ETH is continuing to struggle to break out back above this area, still currently acting as a bit of resistance in between around 40.60 to 4.1K. And of course, we perfectly rejected from this area of resistance in between around 42.50 to 42.80. And as for support, if we continue a bit more of a drop here in that situation, once again, we have this significant support here, the lower end of this area of support at around 3.9K. But if we break below 3.9K in that situation, I'd expect the next short-term support based on these 8-hour candle closes here for the price of ETH, and that's sitting at around 37.40 to 37.50. But once again, overall, just pay attention to what Bitcoin is doing to figure out what is likely going to happen for a lot of the altcoin market. And if we're taking a look at the price of Solana on the 2-day time frame, obviously with Bitcoin possibly looking at a break below that line of support, that's also bringing down a lot of altcoins with it, as I've been saying here on the channel once again. And Solana is now also breaking back below this area of support in between around 190 to 200, but technically we've not yet actually confirmed that break towards the downside, at least not as of right now. But if we once again confirm the break towards the downside, in that situation, it would likely see a retracement towards these lows, which if we're looking at these candle closes is sitting at around 177 to 178, but the major support is sitting at approximately $170. And if we break below all of those levels right there, in that situation, we could find a bit of short-term support at around 157, and below that, more support in between 143 to 146. And as for resistance, it's possible we could find some resistance now in between 190 to 200, and more resistance at roughly 210, and also at around 230. And in terms of short-term resistance to watch out for, once again, we had a lot of resistance right here at around $209, give or take. We've seen multiple rejections from pretty much exactly $209, so expect a lot of resistance around there. there. And once again, more resistance at around 217 to 218 as well here in the short term. And also, if the price of Solana actually confirms a lower low below this previous low in the price action, in that situation, there's a strong possibility we could actually form a bullish divergence here, considering how extremely oversold the RSI got here with that flash crash. And so in other words, it's going to be very difficult for the RSI to actually create a lower low, which means if the price first creates a lower low, it's very likely would ultimately form a bullish divergence here. As always, not guaranteed. We obviously, first of all, need to see the lower low in the price for that to potentially form. But once again, just pay attention to what Bitcoin is doing. This is really a make or break moment for the price of Bitcoin, which can really affect the rest of the crypto market. And if we're taking a look at the price of XRP on the weekly time frame, we're still playing out this massive bearish divergence that I warned about months ago, since almost all-time highs every day since then. I've been warning about this bearish divergence. You can even watch my videos months ago, basically at the end of July, early August, talking about a larger pullback coming over the next few months. And so once again, this is still technically active. We've not yet confirmed any invalidation signal to invalidate the bearish divergence, which means continue to expect a larger slowdown, most likely a larger pullback for the price of XRP on the larger time frames, not just a short-term move. And if we're taking a look at the daily XRP price chart, obviously we perfectly rejected from this 50% retracement level, which was also previous resistance back here, and that's sitting at around $2.63. So really in between around 260 to 270. Expect a lot of resistance around there. Also more resistance at around 288 and more resistance at around 310. But as for support, right now, as I'm recording the video, the price of XRP is now testing this very important area of support, sitting in between around roughly $2.30 to $2.40. And at least so far, as I'm recording the video, we are still finding support in this area, which in the short term is at least some good news. Because if, for example, the price of XRP actually confirms a daily candle close below around $2.30, in that situation, it would be extremely likely would head down towards almost $2, around $2.05 as the next major target, the next Fibonacci level and point of support to watch out for. But remember, even if we see a bit of a short-term bounce, especially from a point of support, that's very normal price action. That's a normal reaction from running into support. But just because we're seeing a short-term bounce, that does not mean that all of this bearish trend is completely over. Technically, we are still playing out larger bearish price structure, forming lower highs, lower lows, breaking below important points of support, failing to get back above resistance. This is all bearish price structure, obviously forming a larger bearish trend. So of course, it's not going to be a straight line towards the downside. We can see some decent bounces in the short term along the way towards the downside. So just don't be fooled if we see one of those bounces here. Technically, we're still within a larger bearish price structure. And if we're taking a look at the price of Chainlink on the daily time frame, it's a similar situation for Chainlink. The price is now running into this support here at around 1730 to 1750. And at least so far, as of recording the video, we're still finding a bit of support around here. But if we break below that area just there, in that situation, expect more support at around 1520 to 1560. And as for resistance, expect a lot of resistance in between around 1950 to $20. And when we're talking about the immediate short term, so the next few hours or the next few days, we don't really have a significant amount of momentum to either direction. We're still holding above these lows right here, and it's likely we'll hold on to this support at least for a little longer, maybe over the next couple of days. But while that is potentially the case in the short term, of course, we don't really have a lot of bullish momentum either. So it's unlikely we'll see a massive recovery straight up towards the highs, which means overall we could just be showing a bit of weakness, but a bit of a break from this massive crash right here, not necessarily heading straight down towards $15, but maybe at some point, let's just say in a week or two from now, it's possible we could see another leg towards the downside. Because once again, like I just said for XRP, despite seeing the occasional short-term bounce, which does maybe look promising on smaller time frames while they are happening, we're technically still within larger bearish price structure, forming a larger bearish trend on the daily time frame, forming lower highs and lower lows. But remember, the direction for a lot of the altcoin market really depends right now to what Bitcoin is doing, especially when it comes to this line of support. If Bitcoin actually confirms a daily candle close below roughly 109K, give or take, especially if we fail to get back above that area, and especially if we start breaking below this low at around 108K, in that situation, it's extremely likely we'll be in for a larger pullback, in the next 1 or 2 weeks is a very likely scenario, which will likely bring down a lot of the altcoins with it. So keep that in mind. Definitely keep an eye on what Bitcoin is doing to figure out what is likely going to happen for a lot of altcoins. And once again, this is the time to be set up, ready to go to take the next trading opportunity as soon as it happens, which I will be sharing here on the channel. So make sure you get set up, ready to go using the links below the video to those exchanges if you want to claim those massive bonuses that are only available using those links. And if you want to actually know how you can trade crypto no matter what the price is doing, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.